The method's still being built. The method won't ever be done. There will always be new things being added, things that I can help people do to achieve greatness.
There's 7 billion people in the world. Not everyone's gonna get this.
Great morning, great afternoon, great evening, wherever this conversation finds you. I am Travis Gray. This is Gray Transforms, and together we are transforming with UFC veteran Ian McCall. Ian, how are you?
Doing wonderful. Life is beautiful. Here in Huntington Beach, California, I dropped my daughter off at... So I'm in my car. I dropped my daughter off at Junior Lifeguards. I didn't get to see her this weekend because I had to be a keynote speaker in downtown LA, and she had some stuff to do. So, I pick her up all the time during the week and stuff. Like, we just share her, but she lives with her mother because that she has a brother and sister there and a stepdad, and it's just crazy me that travels around the world and researches psychedelics. So I basically get to hang out with her when I can.
Yeah. How old is she?
She's 11. Yeah, she's like
cool. And in lifeguard training.
Yeah, she's been doing lifeguard training for the last 5 years, and she just made regionals. She's a super athlete. It's crazy. We make sure she does everything. Like, whatever she wants to do, we make sure she does. She's got a horse, and she does lifeguarding, and she does jiu-jitsu, and she does kickboxing, and she snowboards and surfs and skateboards, and plays basketball. And she goes to private school, so they have all these little sports every like quarter, and she just does everything. And she, it's the top 0.5%. So there's 2,000 kids doing basically military formations on the beach, running and doing all these exercises, swim, surf, learning CPR. Like, they learn. She learns more there than she does in school, for sure. And they take the top 10 kids that go to regionals because they have all these small competitions, and she made regionals this year for the first time. She doesn't like competing in things, but she does really well. She made it to the top 0.5% of the kids, but I don't know. She just has a lot of fun, and that's why we make sure that, like, I don't want her to be a fighter. That's the last thing I want to do. But she knows how to fight, so that's good for her, because pretty girls need to learn to fight too. They need to learn to protect themselves.
Yeah. I love that. Pretty girls need to learn how to fight too. Absolutely. So Ian, I was excited for this thank you for opening up the conversation with speaking about, just straight from your heart. You're speaking about your daughter. That's really incredible. But I've been excited for this conversation because MMA, combat sports, my favorite sports of all time. But also your work right now is very much aligned with my interests, psychedelic research and high performance. How did you find yourself in this work years ago? How did you get into this?
I started taking psychedelics when I was 12, which is way too. I started smoking weed when I was 8, so I'm not saying that's a good thing. But cannabis and psychedelics have never done me wrong. What did me wrong was the fact that I was on heroin or Oxycontin or fentanyl through most of my career. The one time I became sober was when I became the best in the world. And I've had 7 surgeries on this arm alone. I tore my hip, all that sort of stuff, just while I was in the UFC over 6 years. And I was always trying to fix myself. I was always trying to heal myself. When I retired, I was addicted. I stuck a loaded gun in my mouth on more than one occasion. And the reason I didn't do it is because of my daughter. She is my healer. There's plenty of stories I could tell you of things that just would blow you away. But she is my healer. And when she got very sick when she was 2 years old. And that's when I was the best fighter in the world. She got juvenile rheumatoid arthritis because her mother and I stressed her out so badly that once she got hit with the vaccines, her body went into shock. She had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, couldn't walk straight, and couldn't think straight. So I went on this journey of finding what information out I needed to fix my child, because she is my everything. She's all I got, and I learned a lot along the way. We healed her with cannabis, obviously diet and exercise first, physical therapy, massage for a 2-year-old. We were able to afford her a bunch of luxuries, that healing modalities, cryotherapy. I started doing cryo, invested in the cryo business. And along the way, of course, I'm doing breath work and meditation already as a high-level athlete. I'm doing hot and cold therapies. I traveled with a nutritionist and chef. I have lots of scientist friends. I kind of look like a thug, but I hang out with some of the world's smartest people, in which I'm very lucky to have them around to help me become more educated and learned in this world. So when I retired, I wanted to kill myself. I wasn't doing good, and just getting off of fentanyl, using heroin and OxyContin was a fucking nightmare. It was so bad, and then I found, psychedelics. I was already doing them. I was doing a lot of DMT and mushrooms, LSD, just MDMA. I don't drink, but I like to partake in substances like that. And I don't do it as much as I used to, because I have shit to do and I'm getting older. I'm more wise. I don't need it as much. But psychedelics pushed me in the direction of retirement. And then when I was doing so bad, I was like, I have to research how to make myself better. And I knew from my brother about psychedelics when I was hanging out with Joe Rogan a lot. And I started to, I don't know, it clicked. And I've been told I'm on the spectrum before, and one of the benefits of that is you get obsessed with things. And the last time I was obsessed with something, I became the best in the world at it. And I applied that same sort of obsession towards psychedelics and learned everything from political to spiritual to churches and, everything that I do, the science. I became an advocate first with Unlimited Sciences. And, was just kind of looking into where I wanted to fit into the space. My ex, she's a UCLA professor and scientist from Serbia, or former Yugoslavia. And she taught me a crazy amount of things about, not just the sports performance. She taught me more about the spirituality and the ethical harm prevention, working with indigenous people, me exploring my own indigenous culture. I'm like almost 11% Native Mexican. I think Aztec, I'm not sure. I'll never probably figure that out, but it's fine. But I was bouncing back and forth between traumatic brain injury healing, because I had brain damage. I had some of the worst brain damage. I was very vocal about it. Throughout my career, the UFC tried to help me. They put me in all these different therapies, and they did their part. They really, really did. They took care of me very well. And that's why I still work with them. I consult for the UFC as far as scientific studies for the healing of their athletes and performance and those sort of things. Obviously mainly in psychedelics. I've done CBD and stem cell stuff with them as well. But as I'm going through and I'm learning the body more, and I'm learning, these different tools that I can use to make the body heal, I also figured out, I can use this to perform better, because I was talking to Jeff Nowitzki, who is the golden snitch. And people make fun of him for that name, but Jeff is salt of the earth and amazing. He's been by my bedside in the hospital bed 3 times in 3 different countries. I was detoxing off of heroin while I was fighting. I was trying to detox and cut to 125. And 3 different occasions, my body shut down. And I'm actually just starting to admit that part of it. So sorry, UFC. But along the way, I'm kind of figuring out how all this applies to my life, and I work out like a psychopath still. I teach jiu-jitsu. Yesterday, I worked out for 5 hours. I'm almost 40. Does my body hurt? Yes. My neck is killing me. But, I have to work out that hard. I have to suffer. I have to go through that sort of physical release to feel better every day. Simple. I'm not my happiest if I haven't done these certain physical things. And that includes breath work and meditation and gratitude and forgiveness and all these good positive energetic outputs. And with the performance side, I started to run some analytics. I started to test myself. That was the first person. I had a personal training job at a big fancy gym here in Orange County called Lifetime. And Lifetime is the flagship Lifetime. Lifetime is the nicest gym. Them and Equinox. They're both owned by the same company, so it's really high level, but it's for families. I'm the local legend, so I get a job there. And I was like the new toy. Everyone would hang out, and I just microdosed, or more than microdosed, like almost every day I was there.
Wow, amazing history and story. What were these things going on when you're? I heard you say you were legitimately one of the best in the world. Were these things some of the struggles that you were going through when you were fighting names like Demetrius Johnson?
The second time, yes. First time I was sober when I fought him. And I used that incident in Australia as, oh shit, I can't catch a break. Why me? I fell into just like a really stupid mindset, and I went upstairs in my hotel and started doing Oxycontin with my ex-wife. She was already addicted at that point, and was our relationship was really bad at that point. So yeah, I started using again. And I went up and down. You would see my performances that were really good. I'd be sober, and then I would break my hand in that fight and start taking pills again. And then I would get off the pills. My hand is still busted, and like this is how my hand looks. You can't really There's 3 surgeries. I had 4 surgeries here: fracture dislocation, tore my hip, popped my knees, my neck hurts, lots of brain damage. My body fell apart. As much as I would like to have even said if I beat Demetrius, like I should have that first time and the second time, would I have been able to go as long as he did? Would I have been able to do 12 world titles and then go to 1 and win another world title? I doubt it. My body fell apart. Everything blew out. So I use my life as a cautionary tale. I'm doing fine. I'm, financially secure. I'm not even 40. I'm spiritually secure. My daughter's alive and happy and thriving. My family, just everything in my life is doing really well. But I see so many fighters that are not doing well. Phil Baroni just killed his girlfriend in Mexico, and I love Phil. I love Phil, Uncle Phil. These are the people that raised me in this sport. But Phil has tons of brain damage. He's always on tons of steroids. He's always taking drugs, and I haven't seen him in a few years. But last time I saw him, he was doing real bad. So what was Phil doing in Mexico? What was the process in the head? Gary Goodridge is dying in front of us with CTE. I see guys like Don Fry, who, Don's not messed up, I guess maybe emotionally, you don't see him on drugs and stuff, but his whole back is fused. These are, Chuck, my older brother in the sport, he's got, some brain damage, and he's done a lot of stem cells, and he's done a lot of work. I'm going to get him to come to some ceremony stuff with me and study his brain, because I have to. And I'm going to make him a big part of my nonprofit that I have, because, he was my mentor through the whole sport, and Chuck is the poster boy for brain damage.
You're speaking of Chuck Liddell?
Yeah. So, yeah, Chuck Liddell he should be the poster boy for brain damage.
Yeah.
So, and he knows it. He's not shying away from it. But he's going through a divorce right now, so I don't think I can bring him to Peru for 2 weeks. I don't know how his lawyers would like that. But, I'll get there. Eventually, I've got so many of the world's greatest athletes. I was just going over the list. The first 5 people, just kickboxing and MMA alone, and boxing, over right around 50 world titles. 50 world titles for just to go. That's just like 5 of the people. I want 12. I've got another 12 from one person. I've got like it's really crazy to see the level. And the retreat is not just for world champions. This is for anybody. But this is the first crop of people that want to go.
And this is for the Athlete Journey Home?
Yes, Athlete's Journey Home. That's my call to action for people. Donate, help me do this. I'm CEO. I'm never going to take a salary, just so everybody knows. Because that's one of the first questions people ask me. Well, how much are you going to make? I'm like, nothing. I'm sure, the office will be at my house. It'll pay for certain things. But that's because I work from home. I don't want an office. It'll pay for travel because I travel to go work. It'll pay for dinners, but like nothing crazy. I have money. But we are.
But it's a nonprofit organization that is that you've created, that you're the CEO of, for an amazing, an insightful, an inspiring duty to other athletes like yourself that have gone through traumatic brain injuries of various degrees, going through substance abuse, lots of different things. Well, what do you think it is about the psychedelic substance that helps heal from these things?
Well, the one really cool part is that I work with University of Miami and I work with University of Melbourne now. I worked with Imperial College and I've worked with Johns Hopkins. They're going to be collecting the data because as much as I like to fancy myself a scientific researcher, I'm not a doctor or scientist, so there's only so much I can really do in this space. Except build. I can build the thing. Is more I'm the preacher, I guess you could say. The process of epigenetic neurogenesis is the specific term to say microdosing. When you have psilocybin, for instance, in your body for a longer extended period of time, your body's able to produce things like glutamate and brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Glutamate is a precursor to NAD. A lot of people, I'm sure, listening to this show maybe know about peptides. I work with Pyxis Biologics, which is one of the oldest and best peptide labs in the country. So I get to get all these cool peptides for super cheap, which is nice. And I also get to have the ear of the scientists that run the lab, that own the company. And I ask so many questions. When you can heal the brain, when you can produce those chemicals, it's as they like to say, it's like miracle grow. You're actually healing receptor sites. You're healing the pathways. You're unencumbering the brain function, the blood flow, the electrical activities, and then you have all 4 parts of your brain, both hemispheres, speaking in conjunction instead of speaking on their own. So you can access thought and creativity. The flow state. A flow state is a really broad term, and my version of flow was hyper peaked max RPM flow in a cage in my underwear fighting somebody for blood money. And you're giving and receiving PTSD the whole time. Like you're giving PTSD and you're getting, they're getting PTSD and you're giving if you're winning. Like I put a few people in the hospital. I was trying to kill somebody, and you are getting what is called TITS, trauma-induced trauma syndrome, and carrying that is a lot. It really is. I mean, I see a lot of the special forces guys that I work with, and man, I mean, they were thugs, hitmen for the government. They've killed hundreds of people each. So it's something that most people don't talk about that much. The person inflicting the trauma, how sick does it make them?
That's a wonderful term that you're right. I don't hear that too often about how the person that is inflicting damage, or somebody that is in the military, they always come back with PTSD, but it is often not spoken about that they're a part of the trauma that has been created is they're inflicting harm on another fellow human being.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll be at the MAPS conference for instance, and I'm just walking with my friends that are. You're never supposed to say SEAL Team 6, but I got the okay to say my friends are SEAL Team 6 for a very long time. They were hitmen. And like having kids, run up and stab them or try and kill them, and they have to shoot a kid in the face, or the tactics they use to get information. They have to do things that are really gnarly and really bad because these are really bad people, and there's only one way to deal with it, and that's through brute force and obviously cunning. But they just can write off, and they're trained different than your average grunt. These guys are complete, that they don't get the same sort of trauma that the other guys do, because they're out there doing the killing. They're out there, doing, they're taking care of business. But back to fighting, or back to the flow state. So you have the heightening of all of your senses. You see better, you hear better. You can pick up on this person's emotions and their energies a lot better. You can see micro adjustments as their body twists and turns and ducks. And if you're smart, you watch tape on these people over and over and over again. And then you study them. Your coaches study them. You know what they're going to do. When they dip here, this is what comes up. When they move here, you know the process of what they're doing, and you can just pick people apart. You can hear their breath. You can hear where their feet, are hitting, and if they're double stacked, you're not even watching the feet, but you can pick up on a lot of things. And then your fear response drops. And when your body's in fear, decision making goes down like 50% or 70%, something crazy. When you're in a heightened state like that with a super high heartbeat. So when you drop the fear response, your reaction time is faster. Everything slows down. You see things coming a lot easier. You get creative and you throw things and set things up you never would have set up before. And then the breath, because you're not in fear, your breath is much more controllable, and you very much more of a cycle here where you just can breathe through things. Let's take, for instance, my bare knuckle boxer Mark. He was on 7.5 grams of mushroom gummies when he won his world title, and 7.5 grams would put most people on the moon. I was on 5 in his corner, and this is obviously not the first time I've done this, nor will it be the last. And with him, it's more of a frantic, energetic, maybe not frantic is the word, a really aggressive psychosis for a few hours, where I just kind of have to sheepdog him and make sure, like, we're backstage and he's getting ready and he's hitting pads and we're talking to him. And as a coach, we're never supposed to program people, but I'm programming him to go kill this person. I'm instilling him what he needs to get it done.
Psilocybin has a history of being involved in hunting, in warrior tribe like context, circumstances where people are utilizing heavy dosages. It sounds like you're utilizing a heavy dosage to get the optimal performance out of this person, stimulate a lowering of the fear response so that they can have a higher response time, lowering the fear so that they can have a higher response time, and just be effective in a very scary situation. You were just making the example of your coaching in bare knuckle boxing. This is the top of violence for combat sports right now, and I can't imagine somebody not being afraid. Like if you went into a situation like that completely without the proper psychological tools, the proper mental tools from your coach, from your training, the way that you're approaching the fight on fight night, it would be tough to overcome all of the fear that is sure to arise.
Yeah, and we've got some big wave surfers, or surfers in general, surfing 50-foot waves, race car drivers. There's a lot of people coming around, and a lot of different athletes are seeing incredible results. So it's really, really, it's nice to be ahead of the curve. I put myself ahead of the curve taking this chance 5 years ago. So it's exciting to see. And I know I'm not the only one now. There's other people who are doing it, which is cool. We need more people. I shouldn't be the only person doing this. And, like, it was hard for a while. I took a lot of arrows from the whole world about just, I mean, people said awful shit to me for telling people that I could help them figure out ways to heal themselves or perform better. People, like, poo-pooed me, talked a bunch of shit. My mom was so mean for a while. But, people are coming around to it, and I'm not going to stop. Like, I haven't stopped yet. Why would I stop now, especially with the influx of amazing opportunities? Working with Being True to You, which is like the oldest and most in-depth coaching certification in as a psychedelic integration coach, because I was already working with athletes, but my McCall method business is my method is all here. I barely graduated high school, so it's very hard for me to put things down on paper. But so I started to go through their coaching, certification 6-month program, and I didn't know what I was signing up for. I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. Jesse Gould from the Hero Cards Project gifted me a program, and I was like, he goes, if you're going to keep working with my veterans, I need you to get this. If you're going to be running this nonprofit, you're going to need to get this, because he is the one that's mentored me through the whole process. So, because I just basically took the framework of his nonprofit and copied it. Once I saw the amount of information and how amazing this program was and how amazing the team is at Being True to You, I was like, oh, I'm going to help. I'm not going to build my own program. It's not, wouldn't even be anything near what they're going to make. And I'm not here to do things by myself. I know that I'm not that special to just create everything. I'm the idea guy and the preacher, and I have a lot of connections. For somebody in psychedelics, I've been in Forbes a couple times. I've got the ear of the UFC. The UFC is going to be starting a traumatic brain injury study with University of Miami. My team over there with Dr. Hoffer and Megan Blaya are incredible. And I talked them into doing this study. It's on the Sunday after the fights. They fly the athlete, instead of flying them home, wherever that is, they fly them to Miami, and they go to the university for an entire week of a microdosing protocol of CBD and psilocybin. And they get paid to do it. They'll make like $1,500 probably. And if I have my way, if they actually do pay me to do this, which both sides have brought up, I mean, that's a lot of work. And as much as I would love to be the liaison that does that, but I would have to travel to all the fights, especially at first. I would have to be away from my kid a lot. I'd have to, then escort. I'd have to do my concussion protocol during the week, and then fly with the athlete back to Miami and make sure they're set up. And I'd have to go find a hotel for everybody. I'm sure I could find a hotel like the Hard Rock that would want to do a deal where we could say, look, this is what we're doing.
I think it's really incredible. I was speaking to a friend yesterday about the fight weekend that we just had. It was a really amazing fight weekend, and we were talking about intermittent fasting. And my friend said that he did a paper on intermittent fasting maybe in high school. And when he spoke about this, because he was training, he did a lot of boxing growing up at that age. And when he was training, he would have to do some sort of cutting around 10 pounds in order to stay in the weight class that he was fighting at. And when he brought that paper to his teacher told him that he probably has a food eating disorder. And it's like, and this is like, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. This is like 15 years ago now. So those kinds of things, that's the initial impression that people have. But just like you were saying, your mother having a hard time with you doing this work like this, the initial impression of these things is maybe not great for those that are uninformed. But the information is growing. People are getting more and more knowledgeable about what is going on, the possibilities of work like this, and I think it is an incredibly important thing to do if you're going to have people putting their lives on the line for entertainment purposes to fight other people, or if it's in NASCAR, or if it's surfing that 50-foot wave, they're reaching this field that I'm in, transpersonal psychology. Abraham Maslow is one of the founders of this field, and he wrote a book about the farther reaches of human nature. If we are going to be encouraging and inspired by those human beings willing to reach out for the highest reaches, the farther reaches of human nature, then it is only right that we are doing our just duty to do the research and create an environment, a container where they can heal from those things as well. And I'm sure that you will get a lot of support as more information is understood about this.
Yeah, I'm trying to provide a bunch of different psychedelic modalities or molecules mixed with all the same stuff, with sound, with food, with meditation and breath work. I have my ketamine retreat in Miami with Tegan Urban, which I'm the athlete care coordinator. We're trying to set up athlete retreats, to get some marketing back for a free retreat, and it just for me to start coaching people through this sort of stuff. Then we have the mushroom stuff. The mushroom stuff's only going to be tied with those two, or with that combination of CBD and psilocybin, but eventually I will be adding in the coaching side of it. I'll implement that into the program. And then you have the ayahuasca study, and that's 5 sits in 10 days in a ketos, and hopefully the idea is some of these first 12 coaches, or maybe I do two whole retreats, and I have 24 coaches. They will want to in turn coach the next round of athletes that go through this. Not all the athletes that'll go through it will want to coach, but let's say I can get a couple. Well, those couple can service, so many people, and they'll end up going through being true to you, and they'll end up, helping me do other stuff and having speaking gigs, and I'm trying to kind of create a good ecosystem for these athletes to give back to their cultures, to their sports, to the world as a whole, because people don't listen to doctors or scientists anymore. They listen to douchebags like me with a blue check mark. And I've had one for, over a decade, back when they actually meant something. And if we can go out there through what I call the pollination effect, where as the queen bee researcher, I give the information to the worker bees who have those blue check marks, and they go and they pollinate all the ears of the people that are looking at their page and looking at their information. And they tell their stories, That's more the data that will be collected will be great, because we'll be able to measure how bad of brain damage we were able to heal, and how what the process looked like. But I think more importantly, we're going to have the story of these people, of these greats in sport that we're just going to realize are just amazing, good people that all went through something. They all had some crazy story of why they were a fighter in the first place. Why they were a race car driver, or why they were whatever crazy sport, because we're acting on our childhood traumas for a living. That's just what we're doing. That's the driving force behind this push to become so great, and there's two trains of thought. Some people need to retire. Some people need to do this and needs to help them retire, and some people want to do it to get better. So those are the two coaching avenues or lanes that I put them in. And the method's still being built. The method won't ever be done. There will always be new things being added, things that I can help people do to achieve greatness.
One of the conversations that I've had on the podcast is with a Dr. Kyle Ortego. He did an amazing job. He wrote this book, Beyond the Narrow Life, and he does a great work at combining the hero's journey with the psychedelic integration. The book that he wrote, really incredibly well done, and a part of our conversation, a part of my conversation a lot of times with people around psychedelic integration is the importance of setting setting the mindset before going into an experience, and then post. So the consciousness, the level of consciousness that one experiences through maybe meditation and different exercises going into maybe a psychedelic experience, and then coming out on the other side to bring those insights into their waking life, into maybe heightening their performance, or being more effective in whatever areas of their life. Is there are there modalities? Are there things? I know we have this this common friend, Lindsay Briner, who is a coach and a teacher of what she calls stabilized flow. Are there methods of that nature that you have gravitated towards that have been helpful for you?
Yeah, her helping me put together my daily practice and cement it is waking up, my breath work, my meditation. But my meditation leads with gratitude and forgiveness. You know, and do I do it every day? No, but I try. And then I compartmentalize or break down my day. I call it the general's tent, where I go into my head and I think, what do I have to do today? You know, and getting up and doing that stuff, getting up early, getting my sunlight, getting my water in, like just getting my body into the right condition to perform, to get my stuff done throughout the day. That's just in a nice, smooth manner. Otherwise, you get up and you have this like push and pull to do things too quickly, or some things you can't do that day, and that's what breaks me out of flow. So if I can get up early at the right time and actually do the steps, life becomes so much easier. And as Lindsay taught me, she's like, flow state doesn't always have to be this crazy peak. She's like, that's not healthy. She's like, you're never going to fight again, so that sort of flow is not appropriate for life. But I am actually coming out of retirement for just jiu-jitsu. I hadn't competed in 5.5 years, a little less than that. And I did jiu-jitsu at the Subversive event a couple weeks ago. And I went up against, I was never able to take psychedelics and actually fight. And now I get to. It's the best way for me to get my nonprofit out there, is for me to be on Fight Pass. I contacted the UFC and they're setting me up with some matches, that'll be on Fight Pass. So I'll be able to push my brand. I'll be able to push coaching. I'll be able to push the athlete's journey home, so I'm going to start, going down that path of competing again and seeing which molecules fit best. Last time was LSD, which worked out really well. But I also realized I was going against a 22-year-old kid he's a 22-year-old kid. Once I locked up with him, when I first got there, I was like touching him. I'm like, what's up, Harry? Like, gave him a hug, and I was just kind of like, fucking checking him out, checking out how big he was. And I was like, oh, he's a little kid. Okay. And then he had some of the best coaches. Eddie Bravo was in his corner.
Oh, wow.
Boogie was in his corner. Scott Epstein. These are all my friends, and he's only a blue belt, but he's been doing jiu-jitsu for like a decade. And once I tied up with him, it wasn't even like I hit a takedown. I just threw him to the ground like a little kid. And I mounted him, and I realized, like, this isn't even fun. I was like covering his mouth and fucking with, just being silly, because I wasn't that excited about it in the first place. But now I told them, give me some people that are supposed to beat me, because I need to cement my legacy. I am supposed to be looked at as one of the greatest combat sports athletes of all time, and I'm not. And I'm over it, but it still doesn't sit well, And if I can just go out there and remind people of that, how good they made me out to be, because the UFC made the 125-pound division for me. I was the prodigy kid that was friends with Chuck Liddell and Dana White and all this sort of stuff. And then we had, the book planned and this and that and all this other stuff that was all written out and, supposed to happen. And it didn't. So I have to, I get one more shot to do this, and they're going to pay me pretty well. And I was looking at the money. I was like, oh shit, that's how much? I was like, okay. I could make 6 figures, not per match, but like a year doing jiu-jitsu. Like, I do that every day anyways. I'd just be going, I'd have to travel a little bit, but it'll be good. It'll be good for business. So, that's kind of the next direction that I'm going.
That's amazing. I look forward to seeing you compete more in jiu-jitsu and seeing you cement your legacy that way. I think that you are definitely one of the greatest athletes in combat sports ever. You had a couple of amazing fights with Demetrius Johnson, regardless of what the background to those fights were. As you mentioned, some of his accolades, how he has went through his career and retired in the way that he has is incredible. And you were in competition with the greats, including him and others. So I think that it sounds to me like more of your legacy even is, or maybe just like a different avenue to your legacy is this work that you're doing in the psychedelic space for performance and for healing people's wounds that are gained from being involved in these sports. It's really incredible work, inspiring. That you mentioned that other people are getting behind it now as well, but to be a pioneer in that is really incredible and courageous of you.
Thank you. It's my life's work. The performance stuff is fun. It is. The real work is the TBI stuff, because I need to save people's lives. I lost 3 people really close to me. 1 died in my arms. 2 addiction and brain damage and the loss of careers. My best friend that was helping me raise my daughter. He partied himself to death in our house, and I woke up in the morning and someone was screaming. So I gave him CPR, and he ended up, they say I saved him, but I don't know. He was alive for like a month after, in a hospital bed, on tubes and stuff. Then one of my other best friends killed his wife, and then killed himself. And I used to I don't know if we used to date, but we were close. And then my coach, I was the first one on scene when he shot her and himself. And then my coach kicked me out of the gym, and said he can't coach me anymore, and then killed himself 2 days later. So that was just in fighting too. I've had a couple dozen more friends, probably 3 dozen more friends at least, pass away from drugs, suicide, car accidents, murder, cancer. It's been a lot. But
well, you have an incredibly those are a lot of dark experiences. It's a lot of dark things that you had to go through as being the first on the scene to things like that. I know of friends that have been the first on the scene of suicide, that has been just very disastrous. One female friend was on the scene for another friend that had blown his face off with a shotgun, and these are incredibly horrific scenes. That to see that, to be a witness to that, requires its own healing. But all of this experience that you have gained, even though it was through a dark night of the soul, even though it was through hell, to get all of that experience, it has created a really amazing character out of you. And I think that is that goes a long way. There's an important piece to that. I had been thinking about that the other day myself. I have a long history of being in and out of jail. 10 years ago, I lived in Omaha. Now I live in California, and I've been on this journey, and I've had my fair share of very dark experiences, and it just creates the character necessary to lead the sort of pioneering efforts of healing through psychedelic substances, traumatic brain injury, all of these things. So you're an incredible human being. Thank you so much, Ian McCall, Coach McCall. I really appreciate you having this conversation with us. Where should people go to follow you and connect with you and support the work that you're doing?
Athlete's Journey Home is the Instagram. You can go on my Instagram too, Ian McCall, and find the links there to donate. If you donate, I send you guys a t-shirt. And yeah, that's it. The McCall method. The McCall method is trying to figure out what to do with it. because it's kind of the direction that isn't changing, but modifying a little bit. So it will be, the coaching platform that does the coaching for my nonprofit when that actually comes. So we're just trying to formulate, different things. And plus, if anyone's looking for ethical, good sources of psychedelics, you can look at my page because there's some. I do some consulting for. I shouldn't be the face for any actual psychedelic brand because I'm the face of a nonprofit that does science. But I'm always posting different products that my friends own, and there's a lot of safe stuff out there. People are dying of fentanyl even in the psychedelic space. Fentanyl has now gotten into the psychedelic space, which is crazy. So be careful. And know, an ethical source where you're going to start taking stuff. If you take these substances, my friend's daughter, who's 14, just passed away from fentanyl, and she wouldn't do fentanyl. And it's just I come from the illicit market, where I grew up selling cannabis and psychedelics and stuff. My dad smuggled cannabis around the world in the 70s. So I've always been in that industry, and some of us like to make sure that there is safe places to get all these different substances. It's all in candy form, which is people don't like that, but at the same time that's how humans want to ingest stuff. So there's amazing products out there, so just be careful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Ian McCall. Maybe there'll be an opportunity in the future for us to do this again. I'd be happy to offer anything that I can offer to the work that you're doing. It's very much aligned with my interests. It sounds like we have some similar backgrounds and interests in all of this work, in this psychedelic work, but high human performance. I'm really fascinated by as well. So thanks again. This is going to be a great conversation for people.
Thank you.
I don't know how to stop the recording, but that was a great conversation. This is Gray Transforms. Thank you.